Hi guys, today we're going to be learning about elements and compounds. Today's big idea is that all of the matter in the universe is either an element or some combination of elements. So everything that we learned about in the last lesson, everything that takes up space and has mass, everything we can touch, hold in our hands, and see, is made out of the elements from the periodic table. So what is an element? Elements are unique substances that cannot be further broken down by chemical reactions. Each kind of element has unique properties, and they're the building blocks of matter. Right now we know of about 118 elements, but scientists are always working to discover or create new ones. Examples of elements are hydrogen, oxygen, gold, and carbon. Each element has a symbol that's used around the world. When we write the symbols, be sure to capitalize only the first letter. This helps us avoid confusion. So for example, capital C lowercase o is cobalt, which is an element. If by mistake you capitalize both the C and the O, that's actually a compound, so a carbon atom and an oxygen atom chemically combined. Each capital letter tells us that there's a new element there. So let's learn a little bit about compounds. Compounds are two or more elements that are chemically combined. They're pure substances. They have unique properties, both from one compound to the next and from the elements that they're composed of. So for example, sodium is a white crystal that explodes violently when placed in water. Chlorine is a gas that has been used as a chemical weapon, most notably during World War I by the Germans. When we put these two things together, or bind them chemically into sodium chloride, we create table salt, something that we eat and interact with every day safely. Another aspect of compounds is that the elements are combined in a fixed ratio. Let's take a look at why that's important. So one example of a compound is water, two hydrogens and one oxygen that are chemically combined, or a 2-to-1 ratio of hydrogen and oxygen. Carbon dioxide is one carbon and two oxygens, or a 1-to-2 ratio of carbon and oxygen. Carbon dioxide is in the air all around us. It's what we breathe out when we exhale. If, however, we had a 1-to-1 ratio of carbon and oxygen, that's carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is a poisonous gas that most of us have detectors for in our home. So by changing the ratio from 1 to 2 to 1 to 1, we have a different substance with different properties. We can also have compounds with more than two types of elements. So sodium nitrate, NaNO3, is a 1 to 3 ratio of sodium, nitrogen, and oxygen. Sodium nitrate has a lot of different uses, but you may have seen it as a fertilizer or as a preservative for meat. There are a couple of things that we want to keep in mind when we're writing the symbols for compounds. These are called chemical formulas, and they're the combination of the symbols and the subscripts, the small numbers, that indicate the type and number of elements in a compound. So the element symbols tell us what elements are in the compound, and the subscripts tell us how many of each element we have. So for example, CuO, one copper and one oxygen. If we just have one of an element, we don't bother writing the subscript. N2O has two nitrogens and one oxygen. You'll see the 2 after the N indicating that there are 2 nitrogens. You'll notice that the number sits slightly below the line. Remember that this number is called a subscript. The prefix sub means below, so we write the number in this space below the line. H2CO3 has 2 hydrogen, 1 carbon, notice that there's no subscript after carbon, and 3 oxygen. Another thing that's often written along with the chemical formula is the state of matter. We write it as an italic letter in parentheses right after the rest of the chemical formula. The letters that we'll use are S for solid, L for liquid, and G for gas. You'll also commonly see AQ, which stands for aqueous. The word aqueous means that the substance is dissolved in water. Rather than writing the substance and then plus water, it's easier to use this as shorthand. Let's look at a couple of examples. H2OS is solid water or ice. H2OL is liquid water. H2OG is gaseous water or steam. If we think about table salt or sodium chloride, we can have that as a solid, NaClS. Or if we dissolve it in water, we can have NaClAQ or salt water. That's it for today. Write down any questions that you have and we'll go over them next time in class.